Hey guys, tonight we're heading deep into the woods somewhere. Your GPS won't save you, and your phone signal dies before the second bend in the road. You're standing at the edge of a clearing, ankle deep in wet pine needles, staring at the family cabin you haven't seen since you were a kid. The air smells like moss and metal, and thunder's already rolling across the sky like distant bowling balls. You don't even make it to the porch before the wind kicks up, slicing across your cheeks like it remembers you and isn't happy to see you. You probably won't survive this.
So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do. Here also, drop your location and local time in the comments. Always love seeing where you're tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Jeju, it's supposed to be a solo weekend. Just you, the trees, and your granddad's old fishing poles. You pull up in your rusted-out Subaru, the one with the cassette player that still eats tapes, and a smell permanently etched into the upholstery part, pine air freshener part, forgotten French fry. The clouds roll in before you can even unload the cooler. The cabin stands like it always has 3 narrow steps, red paint peeling like sunburnt skin, and that creaky screen door that never quite shuts all the way. As you open it, the hinges scream a familiar protest, and the scent hits you, a cocktail of cedar mildew and something that just might be burnt toast. Inside, it's exactly as your memory filed it. Wood-paneled walls, a crooked painting of a sailboat, and your granddad's recliner still tilted in that perfect, accusatory angle. But something's off. Maybe it's the silence. Or maybe it's the dustless streaks, finger-wide tracks across the floorboards that lead from the back door to the fireplace and disappear completely. You don't have time to dwell. The storm slams into the trees outside like it's been chasing you. By the time you flick on the living room lamp, the lights flicker once, wheeze, and die. You try the breaker, nothing. Your phone. No signal, of course. A textbook horror setup. If you were watching this happen to someone else, you'd be yelling at the screen. You settle in with your flashlight and decide to ride it out. You tell yourself it's just a storm, just bad wiring, just an old house. But that doesn't explain the sound. It starts as a low creak, one you know too well. The grandfather clock in the corner. Only that thing hasn't worked since you were 5. You edge toward it, your breath clouding in front of your mouth even though it's August. The air feels wrong, thicker, denser. The clock's brass pendulum sways once, twice, then freezes midair. At the stroke of midnight, exactly midnight, it lets out one clear, echoing chime. You haven't wound it. You haven't even touched it. Outside, the wind dies abruptly. Historically, the concept of grandfather clocks has a tragic origin, often called long case clocks. They rose in popularity after the invention of the anchor escapement in 1670, designed to keep time more precisely than their predecessors. But some believe they also marked something darker timekeeping as a human obsession. The Victorians were particularly keen on clocks in morning rooms. Some even covered them with black veils when a person died so their soul wouldn't be trapped inside. Historians still argue whether these customs were psychological coping mechanisms or beliefs rooted in something older. You step back. The clock ticks once more, then stops. You don't sleep that night. You keep your eyes fixed on that tall, unmoving shape in the corner, waiting for the next sound, but none comes. You doze sometime around 4 a.m., seated on the floor, flashlight still in your lap, a cold draft brushing your ankles. In the morning, you tell yourself it was just the storm, the house settling, some kind of pressure change, messing with old wood and metal. And then, you walk into the bathroom and notice the fingerprints on the mirror,
4 sets, all smeared, all the size of yours, except you hadn't been in the bathroom yet. You stand frozen in the doorway of the bathroom toothbrush, limp in your hand, eyes fixed on the mirror. The fingerprints aren't just random smudges, they form an arc like someone had leaned in close. Maybe to look at themselves, maybe to look through the glass. You swipe your sleeve across the mirror, clearing it. The glass fogs slightly from your breath. For a second, there's only your reflection, and then slowly, the prints begin to reappear, not fading back in like some ghostly trick of steam, but emerging from inside the glass, as though they'd been waiting behind it. You back out of the bathroom and close the door, not slam, just slowly click it shut. Like maybe if you move gently enough, you won't wake whatever's watching. Downstairs, you keep all the lights off and eat your breakfast in silence, one spoonful of cereal at a time, each chew sounding like gravel in your skull. There's a sharp knock from upstairs, 3 taps rhythmic. You don't go check, not yet. Instead, you distract yourself the only way you can, digging around the living room for old photos, half-broken board games, anything to ground you. That's when you find the envelope tucked into the back of the bookshelf. Inside is a photo, your family standing in front of the cabin, probably taken in the early 90s, everyone smiling except one person at the far right. You squint at the face, trying to place it. Tall, pale, no one in your family, and they're not looking at the camera, they're looking at you. Your fingers tremble. The photos date August 12th, today's date. By now, the storm's long gone, but the silence hasn't lifted. Outside, the forest is too still. You've been up here before. There should be birds, maybe a squirrel skittering across the deck, something. Instead, it's like the entire world hit pause. Around noon, you try the upstairs again. The prints are still on the mirror, but this time they've multiplied, dozens of them overlapping. And your reflection now looks a little off. Your eyes feel too wide. You squint, and your reflection doesn't. In the hallway outside the bathroom, the grandfather clock chimes. 2 o'clock. It has no hands, it has no gears, but it chimes clear and cold, just once. You check your watch. It's exactly 2:03 p.m. Here's a historical sidebar you didn't ask for. In ancient Rome, mirrors weren't made of glass. They were polished bronze, often believed to show not just your image, but your soul. That's why breaking a mirror became a bad omen in later folklore. It wasn't about the cost. It was about shattering your spirit into pieces. Some ancient cultures even believed mirrors could hold fragments of your dreams. Quirky thought. Right, imagine how cluttered yours would be. Historians still debate whether mirrors in burial rites were meant to guide souls to the afterlife or trap them to keep the living safe. You close the bathroom door again and wedge a chair under the knob. Back in the hallway, you finally glance up at the ceiling. Faint scratches arc across the plaster like something's been dragging its nails slowly, repeatedly, just above your head. The attic hatch is bolted, always has been. You hope it still is. That night, you try to distract yourself with an old paperback and a flashlight. Every time the beam flickers, you jerk your hand back, convinced you're about to see someone sitting across from you in the shadows. At 3:03 a.m., the sound comes again. Thump, drag, pause. It's coming from upstairs. You don't move. You don't breathe. You just lie there, frozen, gripping the flashlight like it's a crucifix. Then another sound, more human somehow. A creak. Like someone shifting their weight just outside your bedroom door. You hold perfectly still. Then the door clicks. Not opens. Just unlatches. You don't check until daylight. When you do, nothing's there. Except one thing, the bathroom mirror is clean now. Not a single print. But your reflection is smiling, and you aren't. You don't remember falling asleep. But when you wake up, you're still in the same curled up position, the flashlight dead in your hand. your muscles locked like they've forgotten how to stretch. The bedroom door is exactly as you left it, half cracked open, just enough for something to peek in or crawl out. You force yourself to stand every joint stiff, like your bones are objecting to another day in this place. You've had enough. You pack a bag, shove your charger socks, even a mostly empty bag of trail mix inside. You don't even brush your teeth. You're ready to go. But then you spot something out the window. By the edge of the trees near the shed, something tall is watching. It isn't moving, just standing. Too tall for a man, too thin for a bear. You blink and it's gone. Just trees again. But the bark on one of them looks clawed. You decide to check it out, because of course you do. Every horror movie you've ever screamed at, you're now living. You tell yourself it's just a trick of the light, maybe a reflection. But as you cross the backyard, you notice something wrong with the ground. Footprints, leading away from the shed. But here's the part that shivers down your spine. The prints start at the shed. There are none leading to it. The shed door creaks open with the sound of old lungs exhaling. Inside, the usual tools hang on rusted nails, a rake, a hammer, a broken handsaw. But something's been cleared out. There's a rectangle of clean floorboards in the dust, like a box had been there for years, and now it's gone. And in the corner, almost buried beneath an old tarp, is a Polaroid. You pick it up, blurry, overexposed, but there's no mistaking what it shows. The bathroom mirror, and someone standing behind you in it, but the photo is dated yesterday. You sprint out of the shed and don't stop until you're back in the cabin, slamming the door behind you. For the first time, you feel real fear, not dread, not unease, but that primal animal terror that makes your hands sweat and your throat tighten. You check your phone, 1 bar, no service. You try anyway. It freezes, then shuts off completely. You sit on the couch, hugging your knees, trying to rationalize. Here's a weird tidbit to chew on in ancient Japanese folklore. There's a spirit called the AKA Manto, a ghost that hides in bathrooms and asks visitors if they want red paper or blue paper. Choose either, and you die in gruesome ways. But say, I don't want any, and it disappears. It's one of the earliest stories warning against responding to things that shouldn't be speaking. Historians still debate whether AKA Manto evolved from older purification rituals or was always meant to warn people away from haunted places. You don't say anything out loud. You barely breathe. By now, you've noticed something else. The cabin isn't settling anymore. It's listening. Every creak, every whisper of wind sounds intentional, like punctuation in a conversation you're not supposed to overhear. And then the grandfather clock chimes again. 3 times. The chimes ring out slow, like they're being dragged across the air, the kind of sound that makes your hair stand on end. You walk back into the living room and freeze. The hands of the clock are back, not painted on, not drawn, real ticking brass hands. And they're moving backward. Tick, tick, tick. It's 11:13 a.m., then it's 11:12, then 11:11. And then the lights flicker once and come on. Every bulb in the house glows white hot for 3 seconds, then dies. Smoke curls from the sockets. And somewhere upstairs something laughs. A low wheezing sound, half cough, half giggle. You don't check, not yet. You just back away 1 slow step at a time, until you bump into the mirror hanging by the door and see it. Not your reflection, but something standing behind it, watching, waiting. You don't scream. Screaming would mean accepting it's real, that something else is in the cabin, and it's been watching since you got here, maybe longer. Instead, you turn slowly, expecting to see it behind you in the room. But there's nothing. Just the coat rack, the faded rug, and your own pounding heartbeat echoing in your ears. You whip back around. The mirror's empty now, only your reflection, but your eyes look different, dull, like they're lagging behind the rest of your face, like you blinked a second ago, but your reflection just caught up. You cover it with a towel. No point letting something stare when you can't stare back. Outside, the trees sway without wind. You can't hear the breeze, but you see branches rocking, as if they're being pulled by invisible strings. You want to leave. You need to leave. But you've forgotten something. Your keys, they're not on the hook, not in your pocket, not anywhere you can remember placing them. You check every drawer, every jacket, even beneath the couch cushions, just in time to hear it. Thud, thud, scrape, coming from upstairs again. You freeze, because you know the rhythm now. Same as the clock chimes, same as the laughs, same as the breathing you thought was your own. You grab the flashlight and inch toward the stairs. Each step groans under your weight. You hold the banister like it might pull you back if things get ugly. At the top, the hallway yawns like a throat tight, dark pulsing with pressure. The bedroom doors are closed now, all of them. You know you left one open, but now they stand perfectly aligned, like a row of mouths waiting to whisper secrets you're not ready to hear. You pick the furthest one, your old childhood room. Inside, it's exactly as you remember. Twin bed with rocket ship sheets, a plastic toy, chest glow-in-the-dark stars, still stuck to the ceiling, peeling and dim. But on the desk is something that doesn't belong. A journal. Worn leather-bound with a broken clasp. You don't remember it. You would have remembered this. You open it. The pages smell like smoke and mold. The handwriting starts clean and slanted. Day 1. I arrived just before the storm. Place feels familiar, though I've never been. You flip ahead. Day 3. I keep hearing footsteps at night. The clock won't stop chiming. It knows I hear it. Farther in, the ink gets erratic, the lines messy. Day 5. The mirror showed me my smile, but I wasn't smiling. I don't think I ever was. Day 6. Something upstairs. Breathing. I think it's inside the walls now. Day 7. If you're reading this, don't let it finish the knock. That last line is written 5 times. The final entry just says, "It wears my face now." You close the journal, heart pounding. On the last page, barely visible in the spine, is a signature. Your name. Your full name. Your handwriting. Here's a bit of unsettling history for you. In the 1800s, people who went missing in dense forests were sometimes declared dead, not after years, but after 7 days. Because folklore held that the woods had their own rules, and if something didn't get you by the 7th night, you had earned your escape. Kind of like a survival trial. Local legends vary, but one thing's consistent: never look into reflective surfaces after dark. Historians still argue whether this 7-day rule was meant to protect people from the woods or to protect the woods from people. You sit on the edge of the bed trying to think, but something shifts behind the walls. The tapping again, 3 short raps. You knock back. It answers. Same rhythm. You move to the wall, press your ear against it. A voice whispers your name, not in the wall, through it, like it's using the boards as vocal cords. You stumble back, heart clawing its way into your throat. Then you see it. The wallpaper on the far side of the room, peeling at the edges. You reach out, and it comes off like skin. Behind it is a door, a small one, maybe 2 feet high. You open it. Darkness. You shine your flashlight inside, and 2 eyes shine back. You drop the flashlight, not out of clumsiness, not by accident, but like your hand just decided to betray you. The beam tumbles and rolls into the hidden crawl space behind the little door, spinning until it settles on something in the back. Something breathing. The light flickers across matted hair, gray, tangled, then a face, not yours, not human. Elongated, pale, mouth hanging slack like it's waiting to be filled, and those eyes glassy and wet, like it's been staring at nothing for centuries and suddenly noticed you. You slam the small door shut and fall backward. You don't scream. Not yet. Not even when it taps back once. Just once. You bolt from the room, not daring to look over your shoulder. You don't want to know if it's crawling behind you. You don't want to know if it stands in the hallway, now stretching itself upright after decades hunched in the dark. Back in the living room, the grandfather clock ticks louder than before. Not the gentle tick of gears, but a wet, sucking sound, like something forcing its way through each second. You check the time. 3:03 again. It shouldn't be. You stare at the second hand. It doesn't move forward. It's jerking in place, twitching. Then the chime rings, once metallic and wet, like it's echoing from inside a throat. You grab a chair and wedge it under the attic hatch. You don't care how ridiculous it looks. You just can't shake the feeling something wants to descend. You shove heavy books on top of the trapdoor, anything to create weight between you and it. And then you remember the journal. You run upstairs, grab it, and flip back to the middle pages. Somewhere between the neat handwriting and the madness, there's a sketch, a rough drawing of the cabin's floor plan, and something marked behind the walls. A circle, scribbled in heavy black ink. You trace it to the wall beside the fireplace. You start tapping. Hollow, hollow, thunk. You find the panel and pry it open with a fire poker. Inside is a small cavity, dust churning in the air like smoke. And in the center, a box, simple, wooden, bound in rope. You hesitate, then open it. Inside are photographs, hundreds of them, all Polaroids, some black and white, others faded color, all of people, different people. But one thing is always the same. They're inside this cabin. Same walls, same furniture, same poses, same expressions, eyes wide, mouths open, like they were about to scream, but the photo was snapped a second too early. You dig deeper, and there it is. A photo of you, taken from behind, taken today. You flip it over, in faint pencil, welcome back. Let's take a historical detour. Ancient Mayans believed photographs could steal part of your soul. That's why some cultures to this day refuse to be photographed. The idea isn't that the camera kills you, but that it freezes a moment of you that doesn't belong to you anymore. Historians still argue whether these fears were metaphorical or whether early photography really did something we've since forgotten how to notice. You throw the box into the fireplace, light a match. The flames catch fast, curling around the wood like it's been waiting to burn. You watch the photos blister and blacken, curling in on themselves like dying spiders. But the smoke smells wrong. Not wood, not plastic. It smells like hair. From behind you, 3 knocks on the glass window. You spin around. Nothing. But in the reflection, in the now uncovered mirror above the fireplace, you see it. Standing just behind you. Close, so close its breath fogs the mirror. And then your reflection blinks before you do. You don't turn around. You can't. Because if you do, and it's not there, you'll wonder if it ever was. And if you do, and it is, you don't think your brain will survive the moment. Instead, you back away from the mirror eyes, locked on your reflection, watching it for the slightest flicker, the smallest betrayal. It doesn't blink again, but it tilts its head just a few degrees. You don't move. And then it smiles. You bolt out the front door into the dense woods, not caring that the sky's gone an unnatural shade of gray, or that the air feels syrup thick. You just need to be away from that cabin, from the mirror, from yourself. You run until your lungs scream, your shoes cake with mud, and your legs ache like they've been carrying this fear since childhood. Finally, breath ragged, you stumble into a clearing and see the cabin again, exactly as you left it. Same chipped red paint, same crooked porch, Same windows with the curtains drawn just so. You stare in horror. You know you ran the other way. You know these trees aren't symmetrical. You know this shouldn't be possible. You approach slowly, heart pounding so loudly it muffles your footsteps. The front door is open, but the lights inside are off. You step onto the porch and it creaks, exactly like before. You shout, just to break the silence. You curse. You slam your hand against the doorframe and shout, "Enough!" And from inside, a voice answers. Your voice, softer, slower, as if dreaming. Don't go upstairs again. You stumble back, nearly falling off the steps. The door closes gently. Behind you, something whispers from the trees, low and breathy, a language you almost understand, but don't want to. You collapse onto the ground, gripping your head, trying to center yourself. You think about your grandfather. He built this cabin in the 1950s. You remember him vaguely, whittling wood on the porch, humming some old military tune. He used to tell you to avoid the woods after dark, said they changed their paths when the sun went down. You thought it was poetic. But here's the thing. During the Cold War, the U.S. Army experimented with sleep deprivation and psychological displacement in forested environments, trying to break the enemy's sense of reality. One of those locations, northern Michigan, a cabin in a wooded test site that no longer appears on official maps. Historians still argue whether those cabins were ever real or just stories told by retired soldiers trying to explain their insomnia. You push yourself to your feet. There's one thing left to check, one thing you've been avoiding. The locked room upstairs. Every time you passed it, something in your gut told you don't. But now you need answers, even if they break you. Inside, the hallway seems longer. It stretches, breathes. The walls are slightly damp to the touch, and the floorboards feel sticky beneath your socks. The door isn't locked anymore. You push it open. Inside is a bedroom frozen in time, 1960s wallpaper, a typewriter on the desk, a rotary phone, and dust, so much dust it mutes the light from the window. Except there are no footprints in the dust, except yours, except one other set, bare feet, leading from the closet to the bed and vanishing. You step toward the closet, open it, nothing. Then you look under the bed.
There's a face.
Looking back, it's yours, but not quite. The eyes are wider, the mouth open, still, soundless. You stagger back and knock the typewriter off the desk. It clatters to the ground and the ribbon still has ink. You pick it up and read the last typed sentence. You came back too early. You weren't supposed to see this yet. The typewriter dings. No one touched it. The typewriter's ding echoes like a bell, tolling for someone not yet dead. You stumble backward, nearly tripping over your own feet, heart hammering so loud it drowns out the world. Then you hear the soft sound of keys. Click, click, click. You haven't touched it, but the typewriter is typing. You watch frozen as the ribbon jerks and the hammers strike blank paper. Don't look out the window. You look out the window, because of course you do, and instantly regret it. There, standing in the trees again, that tall gray figure. No face this time, just a blank oval, but its arms are longer now, its shape more defined, and it's closer than before. Close enough that you think no, you're sure it's watching you. And then it lifts a hand and waves. You close the curtain with a soundless gasp and back into the hallway, clutching your sides like your ribs might cave in. The house groans. You can't tell if it's the floorboards or your own sanity starting to warp. Back downstairs, the lights flicker again. But this time, they don't go out. They stutter like a heartbeat out of rhythm. And the mirror above the fireplace is gone. No shattered glass, no broken frame. Just gone. In its place is a new door. You swear it wasn't there yesterday. A black door, matte, featureless, no knob, just a keyhole. You check your pockets, no key, but something tells you you have it somewhere. You empty your backpack, dumping out half-used pens, your wallet a granola bar, and there in the front zipper pocket, where you never put anything important, a small iron key. Cold, heavy. You don't want to, but your hand moves anyway. The key slides in, turns. The door opens inward. Behind it, pitch black. Not the kind of black that comes from no light, but the kind that eats light. The kind that feels like it's reaching for your thoughts. You take a breath, step inside, and instantly the world shifts. You're not in the cabin anymore. You're in a long hallway, lined with doors, dozens of them on both sides, each one with a name etched in brass. You move closer. One says, Michael Atwood, 1983. Another, Susan Maris, 1997. And then one says your name. First, middle, last. You reach for the knob, and a hand grabs yours. Not from behind, from inside the door. It yanks, hard. You wrench free, falling backward into darkness, landing hard on wooden planks. You're back in the cabin, on the floor, next to the fireplace. The door is gone again. The mirror is back. You scramble up and look into it. Your reflection normal, but behind you faint you see the hallway again, and a figure standing by the door with your name on it. It raises a finger, places it to its lips. She. Let's take a step back in time. In medieval Europe, mirrors were sometimes covered after sundown, not just during death, but because of a belief called night reflections. People feared that nighttime mirrors showed not your soul, but your death, what you would become, or what was waiting to replace you. Historians still argue whether this tradition was a form of proto-psychology or a way to cope with things they couldn't explain. You stagger into the kitchen and splash water on your face. The faucet stutters but flows, cold, metallic. You stare into the sink trying to steady your breath. Then something plinks into the basin. Another key, smaller, brass, and etched on the top, attic. You grip the counter until your knuckles turn white. You know what comes next, because some part of you always knew. You hold the key like it might bite. It's warm, almost pulsing, like it wants to be used, like it's been waiting for your hand, for a long time. You don't remember deciding to go up. Your legs carry you before your brain agrees. Each stair groans like it's crying out for help, and the air thickens with every step, becoming heavy syrupy, like you're moving underwater. You reach the attic hatch, the one you'd blocked earlier, with books and chairs. The books are gone. The chair is upright in the hall, like it was never used. You don't even try to process that. You unlock the hatch with trembling hands. It turns with a soft click, like a breath held too long being released. The attic stairs descend on their own, slow and deliberate. You shine your flashlight up into the void. Dust swirls like tiny galaxies. The beam doesn't reach the ceiling. You climb. Halfway up you hear it. The whisper. It's not in your head this time. It's right above you. I remember you. You freeze. Wrong voice. Too deep. Too familiar. You press on. At the top is not what you remember. You were up here once as a kid, hiding during hide and seek, and all you recall was a few boxes, old photo albums, maybe a broken lamp. Now it's a room, fully furnished, table bookshelves, even a faintly humming lamp in the corner, casting an unnatural yellow light that doesn't touch the corners of the room. The walls are covered in photographs, each one of you, different ages, different outfits. Some you recognize, some you don't. Some from behind, some from above, some in places you've never been. And in every photo there's a shadow behind you. Sometimes tall, sometimes bent, sometimes small and coiled like a waiting spider. Sometimes it looks just like you. In the center of the room sits a phonograph. Not playing, just spinning slowly. You step closer, heart pounding, and place your hand on the needle. It drops with a hiss. A voice crackles through. Yours. I told you not to come back. You stagger back, knocking over a box. Its contents spill across the floor, dozens of cassette tapes labeled only by date. The most recent is today's date. You pop it into a nearby tape player, static, then breathing, then, don't turn around. You turn. Of course you turn. Something moves in the corner of the room where the lamp's glow doesn't reach. A shifting shadow, tall, slender, but wrong, like a reflection smeared across rippling water. It steps forward and the light refuses to touch it. You back away, but there's nowhere left to go. Just the trap door behind you, wide open, and a 10-foot drop to the floor below. It tilts its head, and in your own voice it says, "You were supposed to forget." You leap. You crash through the opening land hard on your shoulder and roll. Pain explodes in your ribs. But you're moving. You're alive. You crawl toward the kitchen. Behind you, footsteps descend the attic stairs, one slow creak at a time. You slam the kitchen door and wedge a broom under the knob like that will help. And then you see it, etched into the table, scratched deep with something sharp. "I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. Let's take a cultural side road." Ancient Egyptian burial tombs often included mirrors and reflective metals, not to ward off evil, but to trap it. The theory was simple. Evil spirits obsessed with their own image would be caught staring at themselves for eternity. Historians still argue whether this was metaphor or design. The broom handle snaps behind you. The kitchen door creaks, and your own voice whispers through the keyhole. "Let me in, you left me here." You scramble backward, fists clenched, like they might somehow fight off whatever's imitating your voice. The whisper through the door, your own whisper, slides under the crack like fog, like it belongs in the room already. You brace your feet against the fridge and press your weight against the door heart, in your throat. The voice is patient. "Don't you remember what happened last time?" "Last time?" You shake your head. "No, you've never been here before. Except you have. The journal, the photos, the box in the wall. You've been here. You just don't remember how many times." You glance down at your hands. They're trembling, sure, but there's something else. A faint scar across your palm. You don't remember that either. The door jolts. You shout, not in fear, just to hear yourself, to drown out it. You race back to the living room. The fireplace is cold. The mirror is gone again. The door it once covered is open once more, revealing only darkness. This time, though, something moves in that black. Not toward you, but away, as if retreating, inviting. You look down and see something new on the floor, a trail of wet footprints, bare, human-sized, leading toward the basement.
There is no basement.
Or at least there wasn't. But now beside the kitchen pantry, you see it, a small door, maybe 3 feet high, cracked open just enough to breathe.
You open it.
Stairs spiral downward. No light, no sound, just the smell of wet stone. You descend. Your footsteps echo, but there's a half-beat delay, like your echo is following, not mirroring. At the bottom, you find what you wish you hadn't. The floor is dirt, cold, packed tight. In the center sits a small wooden chair. On it, a figure, slumped, bound at the wrists and ankles. You step closer, the beam of your flashlight shaking. It's you, eyes open, mouth sewn shut, skin pale and cracked like porcelain. It twitches. You fall backward and crawl away, but something grips your ankle. A hand, cold and sharp, yanks hard. You kick, connecting with something that lets out a laugh, not a grunt. You crawl back up the stairs, not stopping until the door slams shut behind you. Your phone buzzes. You yank it out. 1 bar. No signal. But a new notification lights the screen. Voice memo, saved basement confession. You press play. It's you, whispering. If you're hearing this, you didn't make it out last time either. Then silence and breathing. Then your own voice again. You need to stop letting it wear your face. Here's a bizarre historical aside. In 1878, a psychologist named Hewlings Jackson proposed a theory that traumatic memories could fracture time in the brain, creating loops where the mind returns again and again to the moment of terror trying to complete something. The idea was later dismissed. But in 1923, a rural case from Pennsylvania described a woman who relived 1 week in a cabin 16 times before disappearing. Historians still argue whether the account was allegorical or if she never left that week at all. You toss the phone. It hits the floor and shatters. Doesn't matter anymore. Because now you hear the attic steps again. Something is coming down, and they're humming. It's your voice, singing the lullaby your grandfather used to hum. Sleep, sleep, don't make a sound. You back into the pantry, eyes wide, hunting for anything to protect yourself. A knife, a hammer, salt. You don't even know what works anymore. The footsteps stop just outside the door. You hear a breath, then a single soft knock. And your voice says, "You never should have opened that mirror." You don't answer the knock. You just stare at the door waiting for it to open on its own, like everything else in this house seems to do. But it doesn't. Instead, your own voice drips through the wood again, softer now, gentler. Let's stop pretending. You knew the truth before you ever came back. You whisper back, shaking, "I didn't come back." Silence. Then you never left. The lights go out. Not flicker, not fade, just gone. You grip the pantry shelf to stay grounded, the cool wood pressing grooves into your palm. In the pitch dark, you feel everything, the still air thick with static, the sound of your heartbeat hammering between your ears, and somewhere far too close, the faint sound of scratching. Inside the walls again. You fumble for your flashlight. Dead. You slap it. Nothing. Then light. But not from the ceiling. It's coming from the fireplace. You creep out of the pantry, across the kitchen, into the living room, and sure enough, the fireplace is glowing from within, but not with fire. With a screen. A video screen. Your own face fills it. You're sitting exactly where you are now in this very room. But the background is wrong, twisted, melting, as though the cabin itself is rotting in that version. The video. You looks up. "I warned you," it says. And behind video, something moves, crawling on the walls like a spider with too many legs. You don't get a clear look, but you feel its eyes. The screen flickers. Then shows another image, a door, your front door, now, a live feed, and something standing outside. Too tall, wrong angles, its arms drag the ground. It doesn't knock, it just waits. You take one slow step back and step on a floorboard that screams, not creaks, screams. The sound shoots up the walls, down into the floor, and out through every vent in the house. And from inside the walls, you hear them all respond. Every version of you. They're in there, singing that lullaby again. Sleep, sleep, don't make a sound. You cover your ears. Doesn't help. The sound's inside your skull. Then from above, a thump. You look up. The attic trapdoor is open again. A rope ladder hangs down. You didn't put it there. You stare. Then the floor shifts beneath your feet. Like a breath. Like the house itself just exhaled. You stumble and hit the wall where something cold and wet brushes your neck. You spin. Nothing. But your shoulder is bleeding. You grab a kitchen knife. It's dull. It won't matter. You turn back to the hallway and stop. Every photo on the walls has changed. Now they're all of you, but not just photos. Footage, moving images, you blinking, you sleeping, you screaming into the mirror, each version of you more unhinged than the last. And every single one ends the same way. You turning, you looking behind you, and you disappearing. You walk slowly down the hall, breath hitching in your throat. And then you see the door at the end. You've never noticed it before, but it's always been there. It's the same black mat as the other one. You reach for the handle, and it swings open before you touch it. Inside, just a mirror, tall, framed in rusted iron, and already reflecting you. But your reflection steps forward, and you don't.
Let's rewind history for a second. In Norse mythology, there were Vardiger ghostly doubles that arrived before a person and mimicked their actions like a spiritual glitch in time. Witnessing your own Vardiger was often a death omen, a sign that something was unraveling in fate.
Historians still argue whether this concept inspired modern doppelganger legends or if the phenomenon is older than memory. Your reflection places a hand against the inside of the mirror. You do not. And that's when you realize it's not a reflection anymore. It's a window. And you're on the wrong side. You stagger backward, your mind scrambling to make sense of what you're seeing. The mirror isn't reflecting you anymore. It's displaying something that thinks it's you, something wearing your skin, like a costume that almost fits. It steps closer inside the glass.
And smiles.
Not a warm smile, not human, more like a test of a smile, like it's trying to remember how mouths work. You turn to run, but the hallway behind you isn't the hallway anymore. It's a forest. Same trees, same bend in the path, the one you drove through on the way here. But it's inside. You step forward and your shoes crunch on pine needles. This shouldn't be happening, but it is. The house is changing now, reshaping, reflecting you back at yourself. The rooms aren't where they were. The floors are shifting. The walls bulge like lungs. And then they settle again like they're watching what you'll do next. You think of a memory, a real one, a time you were here with your mother. You were maybe 10. She burned pancakes and laughed and told you ghosts can't haunt a place if you keep it full of joy. You laughed then.
But the cabin didn't.
You walk into what should be the living room, and it's now the bedroom from your old house. Exactly. Your sheets, your posters, your busted alarm clock blinking 12:00. But in the bed, you, sleeping, mouth slightly open, one arm across your stomach. You edge closer, unsure if you're dreaming, hallucinating, or splitting apart. Then the sleeping you jerks, sits up, looks at you with pure panic, and whispers, "Wake up, wake up," before the room goes completely dark. You feel the air shift again. A hand brushes your shoulder, and a new voice, low, almost childlike, says, "It doesn't matter anymore." You whirl around, but the room is gone. You're back in the stairwell, halfway between the attic and the ground floor. Something drips onto your shoulder. You look up. The ceiling isn't there anymore. Just sky. A blank black sky with no stars, no moon.
But something huge hovering above you.
A shape too big to see clearly. No eyes, just teeth. Rows of them nested like Russian dolls, each set lined with smaller ones. And below it, a rope ladder. You climb.
Why?
You don't know, but your body moves anyway, like your muscles obey someone else now. Each rung you pass, the world below shifts. Rooms disappear. Photos vanish. Footprints fade. And then you're standing in a hallway again. But this one is different. Clean, sterile, like a hospital wing that forgot it ever had patients. At the end, a door marked with a brass plaque.
Your name, again.
You walk to it. Inside a desk, a light, a file folder. You sit. Open it. Inside is your life.
Not metaphorically.
Literally. Receipts, photos, report cards, emails, even thoughts you'd only ever whispered to yourself. And at the bottom, a contract. Signed by you. You don't remember this, but your name is there. And next to it, cycle #7. A clock ticks somewhere behind you. And that's when you understand. You have been here before. 6 other times. You've tried to escape. 6 other times. But you never make it past the mirror. Let's swing back to an obscure tidbit. There's a lost text called the Speculum Infernalis, or the Infernal Mirror, rumored to have been penned in the 1300s. It describes a prison for fractured souls who wandered too far inside their own minds, forever stuck reliving distorted echoes of their worst selves. Historians still argue whether the text ever existed or if it was invented to justify strange disappearances during a wave of European mirror bans in 1349. You place the contract back in the folder. Your reflection in the polished desk smiles again. You don't. Then it whispers. One more knock. The whisper lingers in the sterile air. One more knock. You look around, searching for a door. Any door, but the room's clean lines fold in on themselves and the walls glimmer like brushed steel. The desk, the light, the file, they're all that's real now. But even that word is starting to lose meaning. You stand. The room stretches, not longer, just deeper, like it's been waiting for you to acknowledge it. You walk forward and the floor clicks softly beneath your feet, like typewriter keys, each step punching out a sentence you can't read. Ahead, a mirror stands freestanding, alone in the middle of a vast nothing. You're not surprised. What does surprise you, though, is that your reflection isn't there. Not at first. You wave. Nothing.
Then a figure walks into view. Not you. Not exactly.
They're wearing your clothes, but they move wrong, too fluid, too confident, like someone who finally learned how to be you better than you ever were. They smile and mouth something you can't hear. You lean in. They press their hand to the glass. You press yours to match. And the mirror breathes. Air fogs the surface from the inside.
And then the knock comes.
Not behind you. Not on the door. From beneath your feet. The floor shifts, just a hair, but you feel it. Something is waking up beneath this place. You step away from the mirror. The lights dim. A small speaker embedded in the ceiling clicks on, and you hear a child's voice, your voice younger, innocent. They said if I stayed quiet, it wouldn't find me. They said if I stopped remembering, I'd be safe. The speaker crackles. But you wouldn't stop digging, would you? You shout, what is this place? The mirror figure mouths something again. You squint, focus. It says, the house you built from your own lies. And then it grins. A crack forms across the glass. The lights go out. For a moment you're blind. Then a spotlight harsh and cold snaps on above your head. You're standing in the middle of a stage. Theater seats stretch out in front of you empty, or so you think. Then they begin to fill, one by one,
with you.
Rows and rows of you. Older, younger, angry, terrified, laughing, some scarred, some still bleeding, and all of them watching. You try to speak, but your voice is gone. The curtain behind you lifts, and something crawls out. Not a monster. Worse, an idea. A shape of memory too raw to be real. Your grandfather's voice, your mother's lullaby, the taste of smoke, the sound of your own name before you learned to lie. It towers behind you, made of whispers and broken reflections. You don't turn around. You just know that it's what you become if you stay here. Let's circle back for a historical twist. There's a heretical offshoot of early Gnostic thought that believed each soul upon death entered a mirrored maze of its own actions. Not judgment, not heaven, just reflections. And the longer you looked, the more distorted you became. Historians still argue whether this was philosophy, metaphor, or prophecy. Back on the stage, the audience begin to chant, make the knock, make the knock, make the knock. You scream no, and the lights shatter. Darkness eats the room. Only one thing remains, the mirror, now cracked, fragile, flickering. You walk toward it, and behind it, the real door. You can almost touch it, but the voice, your voice whispers again, low and final. If you knock, it answers. You stand before the fractured mirror, breathing in the silence, tasting electricity in the air, like a storm is building inside the walls. The reflections ripple, some flicker, Some stare back at you with regret, others with hunger. And one of them, the center one, isn't blinking anymore. Your fingers curl into a fist. Do you knock? Is that what this place has been leading you toward all along? Every scream, every echo, every version of yourself, pleading, warning, breaking, they all ended with this moment. A single decision. You whisper, I'm not you. And from within the glass, your reflection hisses, then who are you? You draw your hand back. The mirror trembles. The air collapses into itself. You knock once. It feels like thunder hits the house from underneath. The floor drops. The mirror explodes outward, not in shards, but in layers. Each sheet of reality peeling off like wallpaper, revealing 100 more behind it. You're no longer standing. You're falling.
But not down.
Sideways. Through versions of the cabin. Some burned. Some flooded. Some covered in vines. One filled entirely with water and something huge, swimming just beneath the surface. And in every one you catch a glimpse of yourself, sometimes alone, sometimes staring back at you in the moment before death, sometimes knocking. You land hard, back in the original cabin.
But something's wrong.
You're still in the living room, but the grandfather clock is gone. The fireplace is bricked up. The furniture is modern, clean, as if none of this ever happened.
But then you hear voices.
From the kitchen. You move toward them, slow, deliberate, and stop in the doorway. There you are again, sitting at the table, talking on the phone, laughing. Behind you on the counter sits a set of keys. Your keys.
And that's when it hits you.
This is the you that never came back. The version that left the cabin before the storm. The one that got away. You stare mouth dry, pulse racing, and then your other self looks up, right at you.
Like they felt you arrive.
Their smile fades. They whisper into the phone, I'll call you back.
Then they stand, slowly.
The two of you lock eyes, and in unison you both say, You're not supposed to be here. You back up, trip over a rug that wasn't there a moment ago, hit the floor, look up, and the mirror is above you. Not on the wall, in the ceiling. It bends downward like a drop of mercury ready to swallow, and then it does. You're pulled upward in silence. No wind, no sound. Just a stretching folding of space as you're dragged back into yourself. You land with a jolt, in the dark. Same cabin, same rug, same walls. But now there's no door, no windows, just four walls. And the mirror, framed in iron, untouched, waiting. Let's pull one last thread of ancient lore. There's a story from the Navajo tradition about a place called the Empty Path. It's said to be a trail not in the forest, but beneath it a spiritual channel where echoes of the self walk ahead of you, living lives you never chose. To see them is a warning. To follow them is a trap. Historians still argue whether it's a tale of identity or one of loss. You press your hand to the mirror. One heartbeat. Two, and then one final knock. From the inside, you recoil from the knock, the sound rippling through your bones more than your ears. It doesn't echo. It doesn't fade. It just stays lodged in your chest like something implanted itself there. You stare at the mirror, breathing through your teeth. It stares back, unchanged, unmoving. You whisper, Who are you? And your reflection answers this time. Not with words, with movement. It lifts its hand, points behind you. You turn, another mirror. You hadn't noticed it before. This one's smaller, oval-shaped, framed in rust, like something pulled from the bottom of a river. You approach it slowly and realize this one reflects what's really behind you. Because the large mirror no longer shows the cabin. It shows the others. Every version of you that didn't make it. One sitting in a chair, eyes wide and unblinking. One curled on the floor, muttering. One crawling in slow, jerky movements across a ceiling made of hands. And they're all looking at you, smiling.
Like they've been waiting.
You glance back at the small mirror. It shows only the room, plain, empty, except for one thing, the original door, still shut. You rush to it, grip the knob. It's warm. You turn it. It clicks and swings open onto the porch. Your porch, not a twisted version, not a copy, yours. The trees are still. The air is quiet. The car is in the driveway. You step outside. Everything is the same. And it feels wrong. You take a deep breath of clean air and try to steady yourself.
The cabin stands silent behind you, watching.
You reach the car. The keys are inside. You slide in, turn the ignition. It purrs to life. You glance in the rearview mirror and freeze. Your reflection smiles. You don't. You try to move, but your hands stay on the wheel. Your body still. And your reflection, it nods.
Then says in your voice,
Cycle 8 begins now. You scream, or try to,
but no sound comes out.
just silence. You blink, and you're back in the cabin, sitting at the desk, mirror in front of you, contract in hand.
The pen is warm.
And the name at the bottom, already signed. By you. Again. Let's finish this. With one final unsettling thought. From history, there's a 16th century diary found in Bavaria, known as the Fensterspiegel, or window mirror. In it, the author describes a dream they had, over and over entering a home, being followed by themselves, and signing away their soul, not to the devil, but to a version of themselves that had been waiting longer. Historians still argue whether the Fensterspiegel is allegory lost in translation or a confession. The cabin creaks gently, and the clock chimes. 3:03 a.m. You place the contract back on the desk. Your reflection steps away from the mirror, and something behind the walls knocks twice. Then a third time dot, and now everything softens. The walls grow still. The air warms just a little, like whatever was prowling through the shadows has curled into a corner to sleep again.
The cabin exhales.
Somewhere in the distance, you hear crickets. The sky lightens to a deep, charcoal gray, the kind that comes right before dawn when the night is tired but not yet ready to leave. You sit on the floor, the boards beneath you warm now, familiar. Your heartbeat slows. Your breath finds a rhythm again. Nothing knocks. The mirrors for once only show you, still scared, still trembling, but only you. Maybe this time, that's enough. You close your eyes and the house creaks gently, like an old friend shifting its weight. The dark doesn't feel so heavy now. The silence isn't hostile anymore. Just quiet, just waiting. Whatever waits in the walls, in the mirrors, in the echoes of your steps, it won't follow you for a while. You've earned a few hours of peace, so rest. And if you hear a knock while you sleep, don't answer. Not yet. Let it wonder if you're still listening. Let it wait this time. Let you be the one who watches,